of my favorite Jazz guys in his couple of seasons here in Salt Lake City. He's a Kansas City native like I am, too. He had a great college and pro career, and now he's doing the coaching thing a little bit. Former Jazz man, Earl Watson, with us here on the Bill Riley Show. Earl, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you back on the show again. Catch us up a little bit. Where are you at right now? What are you up to? And what's going on with Earl Watson?
I'm kind of like everyone else, coming out of the COVID-19 situation, been at home for a long time. During the time of COVID, I became a part-time teacher with my children. So tutor, teacher. I mean, it's like, it's a new terrain for a lot of us in this country and a lot of people around the world. So as we know, social issues are popping up and sports are finally getting back into play.
So you tell me, you mentioned it, social issues are popping up. They're popping up like they've never popped up in my lifetime. Earl, I was born in 1970, so I missed the protests and things of the 60s. But I've seen it here and there, and it's been sporadic through my lifetime for different reasons. But I feel like, and this is just me, I feel like this is a little bit different. The George Floyd incident, kind of threw a match on something, and it has spread like wildfire. But it's not in sports. It seems to be everywhere. And I've always been a big believer that listening and great dialogue is a great thing. But I'd be curious from your vantage point, as a guy that's lived in different places and lives in a different world than I do and has grown up in a different way, though we grew up not too far apart in Kansas City. Just be curious how you're viewing what's going on right now.
For me, it's all about cultural perspective. And being African-American, also Mexican-American, my mom is first generation Mexican-American. This is not a surprise to me. It's just for the first time ever, and the first time ever in our country, that I think you have so many different cultures coming together saying enough is enough, saying that we want change, we want positive reform, we want different interactions between public servants and service, such as police officers with citizens. And the images that we're seeing right now in our country and around the world of groups coming together for love of change and equality is very moving and powerful. And the images we see with, police aggressiveness is also very moving and powerful. So we have to find out, sit at the table, find out what does that reform look like. And it's so fluid right now. Each city, each state has their own challenges ahead of them.
Well, there's no doubt about that. And change doesn't happen overnight, as you and I both know. Change happens gradually over time, but the message has to continue to be there. I've been a big believer over the last couple of weeks, based on some of the messaging I've been seeing coming out of different sports leagues in this country. I think sports can be a great conduit for it if these owners, if these commissioners of leagues, if these players that are speaking out now are serious about it and serious about keeping it in the forefront. I think sports can be a forefront and a leader in this. Do you agree?
I think for the African-American community, I think athletes, professional athletes, and entertainers are going to always push that narrative for those who are not familiar with the African-American, way of life and culture of policing neighborhoods that they grew up in can kind of bring it to the forefront, but athletes can't fix it. We have to fix it as citizens and people and humans. We have to come together. We have to sit with the politicians. We have to sit with those who are in power and put in reform. And, I hear all of this and I see everything is going on, but mental health is a lot of it. Like mental health to me has to also be in that kind of, in that DNA of how to move forward in a positive way. And I've yet to really hear that be pushed at a high level.
You have lived in a lot of places. You grew up in the same place I did in Kansas City. You went out to Southern California and played college basketball. Seattle, Memphis, Denver, Indiana, Utah, Portland. These are varying and different communities. Give us an idea of what the Earl Watson's experience has been. Obviously, there is what we like to call institutional racism, which has just been there it's been systemic down through time in different institutions. But I'd be curious what you have faced as an individual in different places. Did you find better places to live and better places to be, or has your experience been pretty even across the board, Earl?
I think it's very unfair for people, non-African American people, to look at me and say this is the African American experience, and it's not. I've been very fortunate to be less than the 1% of the world to make it to the NBA and to have that presence and that, people kind of know me. So I kind of get a safer passage, so to speak. But just to give you one quick example, and we can be here all day. Examples, I've been in school shootings in the 6th grade at Coronado Middle School in Kansas City, Kansas, where a gunman came in the cafeteria when I was in the 6th grade, probably second month in school, and started unloading fire and shooting kids. I remember running and jumping over kids. And because we grew up in a kind of a poor area of Kansas City, we didn't have any mental help. We had to come back to school in 2 days and act like everything was just normal when we just saw classmates laying on the ground bleeding. And fast forward that to when Seattle Sonics first moved to OKC. One of my best friends from Kansas City, who has been in the Air Force for almost 20 years now, he was in OKC at the time and wanted to take me out to Old Town. And we walked up to like a club lounge I just moved there in OKC, and I wanted to just go out and have fun. And they wouldn't let me in for a dress code, so to speak. And as he says that, a white guy walks out with the exact tennis shoes I had on. And I was like, man, what's the real reason why you won't let me in? He was like, okay, dude, honestly, we're over our black limit. And that was just in 2009. So, those are, the most normalized ways of life that I experience. And there's been more aggressive ways of life that we don't have enough time to even talk about. But just that conscious thought and that mindfulness of, it's so many layers to this is why I think athletes can only create a narrative and push the cause. But for those who can fix it are going to be our citizens and our lawmakers and our politicians and those who are in power.
He really said that to you. We're over our black limit.
We're over our black limit. And I just started laughing. I didn't even know how to respond to it. I'm in Oklahoma, my first time in OKC. And that was part of the reason why I didn't want to be there anymore. And it was hard to explain to Sam Presti because he didn't really understand. You think you can just get over it, but you can't get over it. And at the end of the year, I asked to be bought out my contract. And a lot of factors rolled into it, but I think it kind of set the tone for that entire year where I couldn't put on that jersey and feel the same anymore. It just made me want to leave.
Earl Watson, by the way, with us here on the Bill Riley Show. Our state, Utah. It has a reputation to it nationally, fair or unfair, and it has changed. I've been here 19 years, and I've seen this city evolve and change. You were here for about 3 seasons, 2010 to 2013. Just be curious, because I've asked everybody this, what your experience was like as an outsider moving here to Salt Lake City, albeit as a member of the Utah Jazz, a prominent member of the community. But what was your experience like in Utah?
I mean, it's like asking me that is like asking one of the most popular rock bands what it's like to go into
right.
a non-black city. It's like Utah Jazz is Jerry Sloan. Utah Jazz is basketball heaven. Let's just be honest, and rest in peace to Jerry Sloan, one of the greatest coaches to ever coach and greatest people. But it's unfair for me to even say what my experience would be like. I think the best person you can ask is to go into one of the areas that has the least amount of economics and ask that black person what is your experience is like, because I guarantee it's different from mine. Because just being a part of the Jazz, as we know, we are celebrated as a player and we're celebrated forever in Jazz Nation. And you love that energy and fire in the arena, but it's the kids who can't make it to the games, who can't afford it, can probably give you a more realistic point of view of what their experience is truly like in Salt Lake City or Utah.
Earl Watson's our guest here at the Bill Riley Show today. So as you see what's kind of rolling out and happening right now, as we talked about, sports can be at the forefront. Do you find that athletes now, people are more receptive to the message? Do they seem more receptive to you from athletes versus maybe where we were 4 or 5 years ago?
I think the message has changed, and I think the platform of social media and cell phones and iPhone actually capturing the optics and images of racism or brutality or anything like that is changing. I live in a very expensive neighborhood in Southern California, Los Angeles, and just a year ago I had a lady block my driveway and yell at me to go back to where I came from. And me being black and Mexican, I was kind of confused which country she was talking about. And she actually went and got the police, brought the police back to me, and then the police told her to just go. So you still have these situations, and you still have these outbursts, and you have these aggressions. These microaggressions are very physical aggressions. But the list is forever, and I think now more than ever, we see people of non-black race saying enough is enough. We really want to preach love. We want to live it. We have to show it and support it.
Did she want you to go back to KCK? Is that where she wanted you to go back to?
I think it was KCK. I told her I'd sell my house to her if she had cash.
Well, the barbecue's better in KCK than it is in Southern California. That much I can tell you right now.
Absolutely.
I'd just be curious, as you look at the league now, just kind of pivoting away from where we are with this. I want to get back to it in a second. What do you make of what they've proposed for the end of this season in the NBA? Do you like the thought of you kind of cramming everything in, 8 games, and then the playoffs and the 22-game format? What do you make of it?
It's very interesting. I remember in the last lockout we came back and we played so many games in such a short time. And I remember a lot of players got hurt that season. So I'm very curious to see which players actually had access to resources to stay in shape and which players can withstand a 7-game series towards the end of the season. And it makes it very difficult. I'm very curious to see who's healthy for Portland, how they're going to play, and then the younger guys. See, when you come into the NBA, you have no clue how to be a professional NBA player. And that doesn't mean jump higher, run faster. That means how you eat, how you train, how you sleep. And during this COVID kind of, break, I wonder who actually stayed in that mindset of there's going to be a season with a young player, a lot of free time, hanging out with younger friends, and really just kind of who knows what the way of lifestyle was during that time versus the older guys like a LeBron James who stayed to a regimen and was ready to come back and, lead the Lakers to potential championships. So that's going to be very interesting moving forward.
Portland is intriguing. We were talking about this the other day. If they get Nurkic back and they get Collins back with a motivated Dame and C.J. McCollum, if they get that 8th seed, I don't know that they beat the Lakers, but that would not be a series I would want in my opening round if I were the Lakers.
Well, we all know Dame Lillard in the playoffs is must-see TV, and we know he has the potential to do the amazing in the 7-game series. I've never been concerned about them in a 7-game series in the first round, but if they do get the 8th seed, they would be challenged immediately. But the size they have to combat Anthony Davis and the size of the Lakers, if you think about it, the Lakers are a very vertical team. When I say that, I mean they rim to rim. Anthony Davis, LeBron James, the way they attack the rim vertically. They're less of a horizontal team versus Anthony Davis coming off a pick and roll and pulling up for jump shots, and LeBron James, they're more like attack the paint, attack the rim. And by Portland getting their size back to protect the rim means to me that this is going to be a very interesting series.
You back, Earl?
Yes.
Oh, okay. We lost you for just a minute. We lost you at a very interesting series.
Yeah, it's a very interesting series because the Lakers are vertical. I don't know if you heard that part. The Lakers are very vertical, attacking the rim. And if Portland gets their size back, they will be able to defend the rim. And we know Dame Lillard is must-see TV during the playoffs.
Who's the team you like? If you're picking now, is it the Lakers? Is it the Clippers? Is it the Bucks? Is it somebody else? Knowing what the format's going to be, knowing these guys have had almost 4 months off, is there somebody you like going in, or do you think it's open? You there, Earl?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Now I got you. We cut out twice. I was just asking you, who do you like going into the playoffs? Is it the Lakers, the Bucks, the Clippers, somebody else? Do you feel like it's open? Do you feel like it's 1 or 2 teams? What's your read on it?
My read is there is no read. I think it's going to be very open. I'm curious to see how the skill versus the athleticism takes over after such a short break. Athleticism dies without the proper training. Skills always uprises over athleticism. So the teams that can shoot beyond the 3 and score beyond the 3, I think, has the advantage.
You mentioned this a minute ago. You mentioned his name, and we celebrated the life of Jerry Sloan a few weeks ago. You didn't play for him for a long time, but you played for him in your time here in Salt Lake. I'd just be curious. You played for a lot of coaches, both collegiately and on the pro level. What made Jerry tick for you, and what did you like about him and, kind of his read as a coach to a player? Earl? Apparently the Gremlins are in the line right now. I'm going to put him on hold for just a minute. Check and see if he's there, Nils. We were just having a little bit of phone issue there with Earl Watson, former Jazz man and a terrific guy. NBA legend, played at UCLA. Do a little broadcasting now. I'm curious. I want to ask him, too. The last thing I want to ask him is about getting back into coaching again. But we'll see if he's indeed there, and we can get him back on the line again here before we kind of wrap things up for just a minute. We'll talk some NBA coming up with Spence as we get closer to it here in about an hour or so when Spence comes by. Let's see if we can get Earl back on the line here. Did a little bit of work with the Pac-12 Network last year. So I'm curious if the broadcasting bug has caught him or if he's still got a little bit of that coaching bug in his body as well. So we'll see what we can do right here. Nils can get him back on the line, and we can wrap things up here in just a minute here on the Bill Riley Show. NBA scheduled to get back at it July 31st and going no later than October 12th. So they'll squeeze everything in. Yeah. Not having any luck? Phone's dying? All right, let's go to break here, Nils. We're about ready to go to the break anyway. We appreciate Earl Watson and his time with us here today on the Bill Riley Show. I apologize for technical issues. I don't know if that's on our end or if it's on Earl's end, but I do appreciate him taking a few minutes with us here on the Bill Riley Show today here on Utah's #1 sports talk. By the way, Father's Day is coming up, and we're giving you a chance to win $1,000 cash, $1K on Father's Day. Our friends at Victor's Tires have stepped up to sponsor it, so all you have to do is go to our website, go to ESPN700sports.com. That's ESPN700sports.com to register to win that $1K for Father's Day. All right, bring him back on here. He is back. Okay, let's get him back on here for just a minute, and I'll have two more questions, then we'll let him run and kind of go in that direction. So we'll see if we can get that done here with Earl Watson. Okay. Are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Excellent. All right. I was asking when we got cut off. What Jerry? You played for a lot of coaches in your basketball career, but what made Jerry Sloan special for you?
Jerry Sloan was special for me because he's a no nonsense guy. He was the same every day. We practiced the same every day. We did it at the same intensity. Our pregame was the same, and he created a family atmosphere based on stern accountability. And that's what I loved about him. And my dad is a former U.S. Army drill sergeant, so for me it was an easy connection. And I actually activate, and I think I'm better in that structured, stern accountability environment. And he was a natural drill sergeant and great leader, great person.
Yeah, he's missed, and there aren't many like him anymore, are there, Earl? I mean, there's a few. Popovich is still around a little bit, but there aren't many like Sloan anymore, are there? And there may not have been many like him even when he was coaching, but certainly aren't many like him anymore.
Well, I had the amazing opportunity when I retired to start coaching in the Spurs G League, and I spent time with Pop asking him questions, and with the entire Spurs organization. Pop wanted to be like Jerry Sloan, so everything he did was to mimic the Utah Jazz, from having a point guard, a dominant point guard, to a dominant power forward. So Coach Sloan inspired everyone. I got a good story. When I signed with the Utah Jazz, I got on the phone with Jerry Sloan. The conversation was very short. He was like, it wasn't even a greeting. He just said, "Don't be late, be on time, and I don't take any bullshit." And before I could say thank you, he hung up the phone on me. That was Jerry. That was my introduction to the Utah Jazz. And the next time I saw him, it was at practice.
Oh, that's fantastic. Last thing for you, speaking of coaching, is it still in the blood a little bit? Is it something you want to get back to? Are you looking at pros? Are you looking at college? I've always thought you would be an unbelievable college coach with your passion, your ability to teach, but I'm just curious where you are and what you want to do.
So when I got fired, I went back to school and I graduated. It was something I felt I had to do at UCLA, and my children were looking at me to see how I would respond to obstacle. And for me, the NBA, coaching in the Phoenix Suns, was such a unique experience that I think I'm going to write about it for the undefeated, just so everyone can understand why I truly got fired. I never talked about it. I wanted to take an emotional break to just put it out in words in the right way. And there's no better time socially than now to understand that I had a chance to stay in Utah or be fired, and it was something that I refused to do in order to keep my job. So I'm going to write about it and just put it out there. And to me, I think after the NBA, I think college is definitely my route. I love basketball. I love to teach, and I played for too many amazing coaches to not give it back away.
Well, I'm rooting for you, man, because I think you will be dynamite, whatever that stop happens to be, and especially on the collegiate level. And I really appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your time to reconnect with me here in Salt Lake City. Always one of my favorites, Earl, and I appreciate it, despite the fact that Washington High School used to own Olathe South in district play. Even though I was before you, it didn't matter. We could never get out of districts because of Washington High School and Earl Watson. But thanks for coming on today, man.
Hey, I have something to say. Let me say this for all African-American free agents in the NBA. Utah Jazz is one of the best organizations to play for in the city of Utah and Salt Lake City. The people of Salt Lake City, they love their team, and there's no greater place to play than in Salt Lake City. So I hope the team does well and they do amazing in the future. And thanks for having me on.
Hey, thank you, Earl. Be safe.
Thanks.
And that's Earl Watson.